Chapter 79. The Butler Did It. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come and this charity ball hosted by the Orcs conglomeration must come to a close. But take heart, my friends, for we have successfully raised 2.935 trillion credits, Admiral Cistern announces as the time to close the ball comes along. There's some polite applause for the most part, but a great deal of muttering. A lot of people were more than a little confused as to where Lady Tycanped has gone to. The galaxy over. Children are going to be clothed and fed, thanks to your incredible generosity and your courage to continue despite the attempted interruptions. I'd like to thank both bands who've played tonight. The Morkiar Classical Orchestra, who unfortunately had to bow out, and their replacements our bass and brass, blues and jazz band. A round of applause for both if you'd be so kind. He says before leading the applause himself and getting the entire room to follow along as the band bows. I have to admit, this is the most exciting and entertaining charity event I've ever been to. Ambassador Tal admits with a smile and receives one from Admiral Cistern in return. Although I'll wager someone had something to do with that, she remarks as she glances over her shoulder to see Philip bustling around. Not aware that he's pocketing the weapons and tools for a dozen last-second assassination, blackmail, infiltration, sabotage, and assault attempts. Please avail yourselves of the buffet table one last time if you're so inclined, and do have a safe journey home. He bids them all before stepping away from the microphone after turning it off. Flawless evening, sir. Though I must admit having the band bring Thompson's submachine guns is a bit overmuch, Philip remarks as he walks up and vaguely recalls some of his earliest missions as a young pup with far more balls than brains. He'd actually stumbled onto an unrelated smuggling operation while investigating numerous missing persons surrounding a casino frequented by an oil baron. One thing had led to another, and he had to acquire a Thompson and several drums of ammunition to finish things off. His after-mission cigarette had tasted so very sweet and had paired wonderfully with the wine, though it had not tasted half so well as the Baron's niece. Cultural dress, Philip, cultural dress. The laws for such things are incredibly flexible, and with kinetic weaponry as registered human cultural dress, we're allowed an enormous amount of wiggle room. Thanks to that bit of absurdity, I've managed to have our entire vessel recognized as an unarmed and unarmored transport, with the obvious fallacies in that assumption legally dismissed as cultural artifacts. So long as we don't use laser or plasma weaponry, a human will be considered unarmed at all times. My sword, cultural dress, the pistols we're both carrying, cultural dress, as is the garrote, kosh, stiletto, and broken-down rifle. I am aware, sir. I just find it rather brazen and more than a little amusing, Philip admits, and Admiral Cistern merely smiles even as Ambassador Tal giggles. Now then, sir, perhaps you should escort the young lady home before some untoward rumors begin. We wouldn't want a scandal. Yes, because the several you've orchestrated to distract from your actual schemes won't be known by anyone, Admiral Cistern says with a slight smile as he complies and begins walking out. My goodness, sir. I must admit I haven't the foggiest idea what you're talking about. Philip dismisses after they part from the crowd that's already whispering about how Philip is apparently playing matchmaker. He says this with a slight smile of his own that gives evidence to the simple deception. Of course not. I'm certain it was nothing more than a coincidence that several happy new couples have found their planned place of private entertainment was right in the path of a heist's entrance or egress routes. Admiral Cistern notes when they're well and truly out of earshot of everyone else. And I am certain that the few business arrangements you've made to control 5.25% of the Orcs conglomeration shares had nothing to do with the sheer success of the ball, Philip says, and Ambassador Tal gasps as everything suddenly fits together. I like to win, Philip, a trait we have in common, Admiral Cistern notes. So that's what you were going for? You've got a 20th share of the company, but why? First off, the shares are very valuable in their own right, and I get a voice in company decisions, something I intend to leverage to control more and more of the company. Admiral Cistern explains. There must be some elements in the company that wanted more than a quick payday. There was a quick payday, two in fact, but they were mutually exclusive. My opposing conspirators were aiming to pocket the donations for a very respectable amount, nearly 3 trillion credits. I, however, worked with those who wished for the company to receive both a more respectable reputation to ensure long-term profits and earn a tax break roughly half as large. Except this would reflect well on the entire company, and the vast majority of shareholders and workers would profit as opposed to some few at the top and their friends. Admiral Cistern explains, and Ambassador Tal struggles to keep in the giggles. Are all humans so manipulative and skilled, or am I just blessed to know the really fun ones? Ambassador Tal asks with a grin. Philip can clearly see the lightly bubbling lust playing in her demeanor, and he hopes that his little plan with the oysters will play out. Granted, most aphrodisiacs are due to a placebo effect, but the placebo effect has produced wondrous results before and shall again. Not all and not normally, but short of severe developmental disorders, any man or woman of humanity can be trained to the same extent as Admiral Cistern and myself, although a great deal of personal effort and natural talent does help. Philip answers her question with a touch of honest, but nonetheless satisfying statements. Not that you're boasting or anything. Admiral Cistern lightly teases. I've given up such childish pursuits long ago, sir. I only claim to be capable of what I know I am capable of. Philip remarks while wrinkling his nose. He adjusts his sleeves and slips out a communicator, a bit of quick typing, and he sets the next portion of his plan into motion. Their walk goes along to more silent halls until they begin approaching Ambassador Tal's office and apartment suite. That's when a slight drifting of melodic strings being gently sawed upon by gentle bows. Philip, Admiral Cistern remarks to turn and glare at the butler spy and finding the man gone. Of course, the cretinous cad. Rude, Philip says from out of sight but not out of earshot. Come on, this isn't going to end without going through the motions. Ambassador Tal prompts as she struggles to keep a smile off her face. The slow play of the violins grows louder as they reach her office and apartment. They're not in sight, but undoubtedly present, and the Gobi ambassador can barely fight down her giggles. Ambassador Tal, it's been nothing short of a pleasure and a privilege to be your date this night. I do hope the evening was as much fun for you as it was for me, Admiral Cistern says before shooting a bit of a glare down the way where the music is coming from. It was an absolute delight, though. It was a bit of a shame that there's nothing to complain about. Well beyond how rude Lady Takanped was, but the spoiled idiot is either rude or condescending if she isn't both at once. How on earth did that woman get herself into her current position? Admiral Cistern asks as he pictures any number of the assassination attempts tonight that had been thwarted were no doubt aimed at the insufferable woman. If such a thing hadn't collided with his plans or been prone to failure on its own, he would have told Philip to allow them if only to remove the pest without bloodying his own hands. She led a long series of blackmail, bribery, favors, and other such duplicitous actions. It's a pattern with her race in politics. The Pavarus race for an office for the title and then don't do anything with it. Lady Takanped wanted to be Speaker of the Council, but didn't actually want to do anything with it. She'll fight with everything she has to keep the title, but won't be bothered to pay attention to anything that isn't a danger to her holding it. Ambassador Tal explains before gesturing for Admiral Cistern to come down to her level. He kneels down and she holds up her hands before pausing. It's clear just how much she wants him, how she's just inches away from him before stepping back. I've had an amazing time and want nothing more than for you to follow me into my apartment, but I don't want to ruin this. You've been something out of a dream, which is a pattern I've been finding all over the place for every man off that ship of yours. Pirate gangs turning privateer, then hero if rumors are to be believed, full-on action heroes doubling as bounty hunters and tearing down the hardest jobs like jokes, romances straight out of storybooks and tall tales. I'm in one of those little stories and I'll be damned if I ruin my big chance, she says, and he smiles before letting out a chuckle. I think that it's time that I move past some of my insecurities and foolishness. Yes, I've had a hard time, but overly cautious is just as bad as overly reckless, he says. I think I'd like to take a chance if you'd allow me. He asks her and the music picks up. Oh, for goodness sakes, you cretins! Back to the ship, on the double! He barks out and the sound of boots hitting the ground replaces the music. I'd love for you to join me. Please, come in, she says, opening the door into her apartment. He follows her in and Sir Philip nods in satisfaction. It's unlikely for things to go all the way, but this is a very important and very big step. Sir, it's a damn good thing you're not messing with the betting pools. Otherwise, half the information department would try to skin you alive for that stunt. One of the guards on patrol notes before Harriet flicks her Kutha stub earring to display her actual face to him for a moment. Young lady, what did I tell you about dropping a disguise on a field? He asks irately. Only when completely sure of my surroundings. She answers quickly. And are you completely certain of your surroundings? Philip asks in a cross tone. Yes, she asks, not a good sign. Oh, really? Then you are aware of the spy in your shadow? Philip asks, and she spins around with her gun at the ready only to find Herbert ducking low to avoid it, prompting a sigh from the proper old spy. That's quite enough out of both of you. Herbert, you need to work on your appearance. The key to good stealth is to also have an excuse to be wherever you are. A ninja suit is plenty fetching, but beyond stage plays and games, the pajamas have got to go, he says, before looking back to the sheepish Harriet. Needless to say, you know what you've done wrong, young lady. Yes, sir. Both of them say, and he nods before favoring them both with a smile. Regardless, you've both done very well with your initial tasks. Your skills and abilities are coming on nicely. Now head back to your postings. He prompts the two, who each give him a salute and start off. So are those actually your pajamas, or was he just being snarky? Harriet asks Herbert, who chuckles. Both. These are soft, blend with the darkness, and have big pockets for all sorts of little things. I can also wear it at night, and so long as I'm nearby the building, I'm fine to be caught in it, minus the head bit. Is that a towel? Harriet asks, pointing to the head wrapping. Yes, he answers.